Have you ever been scrolling online and seen commentary that just feels designed to create chaos? Well, today we're going to dig into the rhetoric of a media personality named Tariq Nasheed. We're asking one big question. Does his approach follow a specific playbook for dividing and disrupting communities? Let's break down the patterns and see where the evidence takes us.
To really get his approach, you don't have to look very far. You can just start with his own words. Nasheed has actually called himself the world's #1 race baiter. Now that is a deliberately provocative title, right? Choosing a label like that, it signals a confrontational style right from the get-go. It kind of perfectly sets the stage for the conflict-driven framing we're about to look at.
So what are we really looking at here? Is this whole thing just part of building a provocative brand that's designed to get clicks and attention? Or do these methods actually mirror a known playbook, one that's used to intentionally disrupt communities? That's the question we're here to investigate together.
Okay, so first things first. To understand the rhetoric, you've got to understand the voice behind it. Let's get a little essential background on who Tariq Nasheed is and the kind of platform he's built for himself.
Nasheed's public persona has really evolved over the years. He first got noticed back in the 2000s as Tariq Elite, and his focus was on dating advice. But then around 2011, he made a big pivot to documentary filmmaking with his Hidden Colors series. And more recently, he's become this leading voice for what's called Foundational Black American, or FBA ideology. And that shift is what really defines his platform today.
His commentary tends to circle around a few core themes, and they're often pretty controversial. At the center of it all is that FBA ideology, which basically argues that reparations should only go to the descendants of American slavery. He's also faced accusations of xenophobia for claiming that African immigrants are taking opportunities away from Black Americans. He often uses these really loaded historical terms to spark debate, and he promotes conspiracy theories, like an alleged plot to emasculate Black men. These are the kinds of flashpoints that get so much attention.
Now, to analyze this kind of rhetoric in a useful way, we need a framework. So let's turn to a known strategy that you see in influence operations, the divide and disrupt playbook.
So what the heck is a divide and disrupt operation? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's a strategy designed to create chaos. The goal isn't really to convince you of one specific thing. It's to find existing cracks in society, social, ethnic divisions, and then just pour gasoline on them. The whole point is to fuel conflict and make people distrust each other.
And researchers have found there's a pretty common formula for this. It usually breaks down into 4 key steps. First, you find real grievances and conspiracy theories, and you turn up the volume on them. Second, you exploit identity divides to drive a wedge between groups. Third, you label anyone who disagrees with you as a traitor to shut down any real debate. And finally, you just flood the zone, social media, with the same messages over and over again to make it seem like everybody agrees. This is the playbook we're going to use to compare.
Okay, so now for the interesting part. Let's connect the dots. We're going to take that 4-step playbook we just talked about and put it right alongside the observable patterns in Nasheed's public rhetoric.
And when you do that, wow, the parallels are kind of striking.
The playbook says exploit identity divides. Nasheed frames conflict as foundational Black Americans versus African immigrants. The playbook says amplify grievances. We see him promoting conspiracies about plots against Black men. The playbook says label your opponents. He calls his critics things like tethers, implying they're intellectually chained to white supremacy. He's even urged his followers to do background checks on people who dissent, which is a textbook tactic for silencing your critics.
And this quote from the commentator Omoyele Afrika just perfectly illustrates that third tactic of labeling opponents. It describes an environment where any criticism at all is immediately framed as a betrayal. This creates a really powerful echo chamber where dissent isn't just something you disagree with. No, it's seen as an act of treason.
So here's the other crucial piece of the puzzle. There's a financial angle here. Provocative, controversial content gets a ton of viral shares online. That visibility boosts his brand, which, you have to assume, boosts his revenue from things like films and books. This creates a feedback loop where more controversy is literally good for business, a dynamic that prioritizes engagement over unity, which is exactly what influence operations do too.
This all leads to a really, really important distinction we have to make. We can analyze the patterns all day long, but we can't prove someone's intent. So let's separate what we can't know, his motives, from what we can observe, which is the real-world impact of his rhetoric.
This basically leaves us with 2 main explanations. On one hand, you could look at this and see a coordinated influence operation, something that's using a known playbook to sow discord for some hidden reason. Or, on the other hand, he could just be a homegrown provocateur who figured out that these exact same divisive tactics are a super effective way to build a loyal and monetizable audience. Either way you slice it, the methods look the same.
And just look at how the message spreads. Nasheed makes a post, and then boom, it's immediately echoed by his son, by his colleagues, and then by a whole network of YouTubers making reaction videos. This is a classic example of what's called network amplification, or astroturfing. It's the practice of making a message look like it has widespread, grassroots support when it's really a coordinated push.
And here's the bottom line. It doesn't really matter if the motive is some hidden agenda or if it's just about building a personal brand. The observable outcome is identical. Community rifts get deeper and echo chambers get stronger. The impact is division. Period.
So where does all this leave us? Well, this final section isn't about me giving you some definitive answer. It's about equipping you with the critical tools you need to make your own assessment.
Our analysis has to stop at patterns and effects, because that's all the public evidence can show us. We can't prove intent. But what we can say for certain is that the observable impact of this rhetoric and the methods used to get there are virtually indistinguishable from a known disinformation playbook.
And so, we'll leave you with this question. When public figures relentlessly stir up fear and anger and division, who actually benefits from that? Who wins when communities are focused on fighting each other? Thinking critically about that, well, that's our best defense.